dodgy warm-up act was going on. All I was worried about was whether this thing could actually tilt down. So let me start with that. So thank you, a huge thank you for inviting me today. As Carl says, next week I will become the Chief Executive of Kirklees Council. Can't tell you how excited I am about that, for all the reasons I'm going to talk about today. When Carl asked me to speak, he said two things. Be witty, which I'll struggle a little bit with, but and be passionate, and just talk about the things that you are talking about all the time in the council. So that's what I'm going to try and do. Okay, so active citizenship. Let me just start with a little bit of, and Carl took a bit of my speech, so I'll fly through this a little bit. So let me just start with the Democracy Commission. I think as a council we were really bold 2 years ago to say what we really need to do is to look at the changing landscape in terms of local government and what that means in terms of how we respond. And nobody thinks that they've got the answers in terms of the challenges that we face. So we decided to be bold and actually go out and ask people. And I know that sounds quite surprising, you know, how bold is that? But in effect, the council for a number of years has been very much a paternalistic organisation that has had money thrown at it in some ways to do what it needs to do, and has been able to do that in isolation of its communities at times. So we decided that actually that was not the right approach, and we were going to go out and with strong political leadership that they have through the Commission gone out to start to ask an awful lot of questions about what do we think democracy needs to look like in 2020 and beyond. And through that we have found a whole host of evidence that suggests that everybody feels frustrated. And I'm an officer, so I can't get political, but if there was ever an indication of the frustrations of the population at large in democracy, then last year was a prime example of that in terms of Brexit and Trump and whatever, but I won't go any further. But I think there is a challenge in terms of people are trying to say to us, some of this isn't working for us. So we've had a number of events, that, as Carl's touched on, and we've got all of this evidence, and now the Commission, with Gemma as part of that, are looking at all the evidence base to make some recommendations back to the public sector at large, really, local government at large, around the things that need to change. And I think there are some strong messages that are coming out which are going to be really difficult, I think, for local authorities particularly to grasp. Okay, so let me just start with the wider context. It's not. I feel like everywhere I go I talk about money, and we know that it is a very austere time. We know that councils are having significant cuts. As we set our budget on Wednesday this week, we cannot balance the books. We are using reserves in order to be able to get us through the next 12 months. And in the next 12 months we will be downsizing the organisation quite rapidly. Now that can be quite depressing, or you can take that as an opportunity and try and do things really, really differently. And that's what we've tried to do. We've tried to say we're not going to do things in the very narrow way that we would do them. We're reaching out and saying actually there are an awful lot of things that we don't do that well. We can do things quite differently and lead to better outcomes. There is a real change in political narrative around the role of local government and local authorities and their place in the region, and the regional devolution is something that we have to watch and make sure that we are part of. But in terms of regional devolution, the important part for us is we understand the needs of the local area and make sure that we can articulate them well to a much wider voice. We know that we have got to move from that paternalistic leading and managing place to be able to facilitate things that happen in the borough and the things that need to happen. It's less about turning towards the councils because the council will sort it, and more about how do we work together to make sure that we can do the things that we've set out to do. And the one thing that we're all united on in the council is that actually in order for this to happen, the council has to be really clear that active citizens are what we need. I said to my husband this morning, who I brought actually today just in case nobody turned up, and I did say to him, and this is true, I did say to him, if nobody else is there and there's only you and I finish, I want a standing ovation. But I'll still accept that, Ken. Anyway, so whereas I said to him this morning, what does active citizenship mean to you? And he turned around and said, well, I suppose it's about giving back. And whilst that's true, he's not the brightest, whilst that's true, it's also about making sure that people understand their role in society and that they're embracing their role. It is about how we build good communities. It is about how do we look after our neighbour, how do we make sure that we're passionate about the things we should be passionate about, how are we treated like adults, you know. why don't we problem solve initially before we turn to somebody else to do that for us? I do genuinely believe that you get the politicians you deserve, and to some extent, some of you have got some great politicians, Gemma. But actually, you should demand more of your politicians in terms of making sure that they are there, helping and supporting your community to be sustainable, to be independent, to be able to do the things that you need to do in your local area and not need to ask for other people to come in and wait for that to happen. So active citizenship is key to the next few years and key, I think, actually to society at large. Okay, so in order to create the conditions for active citizenship, what we need to do is to make sure things change, and that is a changing role for the local council. They need to step back. We do need to step back. And that is quite difficult when for years you've created a culture of dependency. Nobody set out to create a culture of dependency, but I feel like that's what we've got. And you'll start to see, and I think other councils are doing this too, you'll start to see councils nudging back. You write a letter saying, why don't you come and clean my sign outside my house, it's very dirty. We'll write back and say, why don't you do that too? Because there's just something you can wait for 5 years for us, or you could just get out there with a cloth. And I know people think, oh gosh, I pay my council tax. But actually, when you look at the growth in terms of volumes around the pressures around adults and vulnerable children, we are in a space where they are the priority. So cleaning your sign, unfortunately, isn't the biggest priority of the council. And that's quite a difficult message. But what we need to make sure is that we are stop treating people like customers. So, we've tried very hard to treat people like customers, and actually it hasn't worked. People aren't satisfied with the services that they get because they expect ever more. So actually it's about making sure that we treat people like citizens, grown-up citizens who have a responsibility in their local area to do what they need to do. And we already know there's great examples where people have stepped forward and embraced that. When we tried to close libraries, lots of people have stepped forward, and now we've got a load of libraries which are being run by volunteers with just a little bit of support from the council. So we know it can be done. It's just about people recognising that that's what we need to do. We need to be clear as well around consultation and engagement. We get a better product if we engage people locally. People know their area better than we do. Sitting in an office and designing things for people doesn't work. We need to get out and engage more broadly. And that we need to be clear that decision making is really important. Transparent decision making about how things are happening in a local area is something that we recognise through the Democracy Commission. It's coming through loud and clear. People want to know how decisions are made. They want to know how they influence decisions. So going forward, we need to make sure the decision making is much more transparent than it has been. And I suppose finally for me, I think that the challenge that we've got is that we're trying to do this quite rapidly, or we should have. If I knew now what I knew then, that's the way around, isn't it? If I knew then what I know now, I think what I would have done is try to start this journey many, many years ago, because I'm actually quite excited about the way ahead. I think that if we get this right, we will all live in a better place. And actually, that voice needs to be heard, and we need to make sure that is clear through the democratic process. And I genuinely believe this. If we get this right, despite the fact we've been spending lots and lots of money, we haven't been getting things right. We can spend a lot less and get better outcomes for citizens. Okay, thank you.